Hello, hello, happy Tuesday. Let me just get my screen up so I can see your comments. One moment. All right. There we are. Okay. Beautiful. Awesome. Hello, hello, and welcome to the Scrap and Stamp Facebook page. I'm Allie, and today we are going to be talking about a technique called Joseph's coat. Okay, so I've already done an example for you, so you kind of know where we're headed. And we're going to talk about the process today. We're not going to do a finished process. This is our finished card, but we are going to teach you all about how to do this particular technique. Okay, so today's example is using a stencil. And we're going to talk a little bit about other things that you can use to do this particular technique. So this particular example today uses Dress Blues, Uptown, and Martini Catherine Pooler ink. And also I've used a black ink. I've just used VersaFine just because it was the blackest ink I could find. All right, so the premise of this is to ink up a background and trap it beneath. So if I bring in my stencil, okay, we have inked a full panel. I have placed my stencil over top. I have gone through with Versamark or some kind of sticky embossing ink through my stencil. And then we've put clear embossing powder on top of that to basically trap whatever is inked. So whatever is not inked, which of course your stencil is your resist, whatever's not inked won't hold the powder because it's not sticky. So that's the premise behind what we're doing today. So you can use different methods to get whatever you want to achieve on your card base. This example, of course, uses the stencil, but I'm going to use a background stamp today to do an alternative version so that you know that you can use different items to get the same effect. Okay, so for today, we are going to use a background stamp by Catherine Pooler. This one is filigree background. This one doesn't happen to be in the store, but I wanted to show you that you can use a background stamp to do this technique. Okay. So I couldn't find a background stamp that I had that's in the store, so I apologize for that. Okay. So for today, before we get started, I don't know why I'm pulling this out. We got stuff to do first. Okay. So I'm going to bring in a piece of paper that just holds my paper because we need to ink out our background first. Hello, Carol. Welcome, welcome. We're just getting started. You haven't missed a thing. Okay, so I'm just taking you can do this for a whole page. This doesn't have to be card front size. You can do this for any kind of size of paper. So I think we will use a different color combo today. I'm a purple girl, so I think we're going to use Crushed Violet, Lilac, and Flirty Fuchsia today. And I am going to grab brushes for that. Give me 1 second here. I didn't actually pull my brushes, which is silly. I'm not sure if I've got a light purple one or not. I do. A lilac and my Flirty Fuchsia. Okay. All right. So for the Joseph's coat technique, you could use pattern paper for this if you want, but the nice thing about this is that you create your own background. Okay, so we're going to start with our lightest, just because we are. So lilac. making sure that my got enough ink on there. So you can do this in any pattern that you want. Yes, I'm a purple girl, Carol, so I figured we'd do purple today. I had another color palette picked out, but we're going with my favorite. And I got stuff rolling off my desk. All right. So you can do this pattern of blotches at random. If you particularly love one of the colors more, then put more of it down. You want to kind of create whatever background you want first. Because the idea behind this technique is that you trap whatever your background is, and you only see parts of it. It's almost like, well, it's kind of like masking off an area. So you make it kind of pop through. Okay, some blotches of lilac. Okay, we're going to go crushed violet next. This is such a pretty color. I'm just dabbing off. I just want to make sure that I don't have anything funky on my brush. Not that it really matters because it's purple. Okay, and I'm just blending in between. You can do this at random. There's no rhyme nor reason. You do whatever you kind of want. You could do even stenciling underneath it if you really wanted to. Okay. Again, I'm just doing this at random. All right, I'm going to leave that pad open for a second, and we're going to go on to our Flirty Fuchsia, which, oh, I love this color. If you're new to inking, or if you're looking for another brand of ink to try, I 100% recommend Catherine Pooler inks. Rhea has them all in the Scrap and Stamp shop, so you can get whichever ones you desire. And she also just brought in some minis, okay? So Catherine Pooler has, and they come in sets of 8, okay? These are the CP minis, okay? And you get them in a package of 8. I just happen to have these ones just sitting off to the side here. So you get kind of like a color collection when you purchase the minis because you get 8 to a set. Okay, I'm going to go back with my lilac here. Look at that. I can gunk all over it. All right. Microfiber cloth. No, it's not coming off. All right. No big deal. We're going in with a little bit more of our lilac in between our gaps. And again, this doesn't have to look fabulous, okay? This is kind of like get messy, get inky, have fun. No qualms about pattern or getting things smooth. Okay. Just having purplicious fun. Okay. I got ink all smushed over my top. Okay, when you are happy with this, okay. Now, the next key thing to this process is to make sure that your background is dry. This is key. Okay, so you can, if you touch your paper and it feels a little cool, that means it's still wet. Okay, it has a little bit of water or liquid still trapped. I'm going to use my heat gun just to add a little bit of drying time. Okay. And the reason why you want to make sure it's dry is because the next thing we're going to do is add powder kind of on top. So you don't want a wet background because it won't make this process work at all. So, and a little bit of heat is not going to matter with this. Okay. Now, if you don't know if this is completely dry yet, there's a trick. Okay, so I've already got a spare piece of copy paper here. I'm going to just take my embossing powder, and it comes in many forms, and I'm just going to wipe this down. Okay, so if you want to make sure that your ink is dry without touching this at all, take your powder and just sprinkle it across your project. So if you have areas, and hopefully I can catch this on camera, if you have areas that are still wet, powder will stick, okay? And that's not what you want. So now I can take this and I can completely get rid of that powder because it's not really going to stick anywhere. So I can get rid of it completely. Okay, so I'm just tapping my excess in here before I wear it, or my desk wears it. Okay, so you can just take a cloth and just make sure that there's no fibers left, or particles left. Okay, so it's just checking to make sure that your surface is dry. Otherwise, your powder sticks to the places that you don't want to. Okay. So the next thing to do is to take your powder tool and do the same thing to your inky piece, okay? Make sure you get all the way to the corners, okay? Because it's really important, because we don't want stuff to stick where it's not supposed to. Okay. We are now going to bring in, this is a regular sized MISTI. This is a background stamp made from rubber. So we are going to put this in our MISTI. Yes, you can use rubber stamps in a MISTI tool. Let me show you. There's a trick to this. So take your magnets out. Okay. So you have to take out the foam. Okay. Take out the foam bit. Put my paper back in here. Okay. We're going to put my stamp. I'm going to jam it right in the corner. You can put your magnets back in if you need to. Okay, so you don't lose them. And then you're just going to pick up, okay, stick. Good boy. All right. Now, if this stamp, you want a stamp that has lots of stamping area, so it's quite solid in nature. I'm going to move these out of the way so I can get more of my stamping tool on screen here. Okay, putting my brushes over here too. Okay, here we go. So for this technique, the more surface area you stamp, I think the better it turns out, because you want to trap as much of this underneath. So the more surface area on your stamp, the better things turn out. Okay? So if you want to make sure that this is centered, for instance, maybe it has a word, something like that on it, what you do is you take your cardstock, and we're going to put a little bit of adhesive on the back. And I'm just putting some skin cells on it so that it stays somewhat repositionable. Okay, now take your cardstock and find your sweet spot on your stamp. Okay, so this stamp is a little bit larger than an E2. Oops. I stuck it to my finger. So it has a little bit of overlap. But this is how you can center it and make it even if it has like a font on it. Okay, so you line it up this way. And then you fold it kind of upside down. Okay, give it a little pat to pick up that cardstock. So now I know that cardstock is exactly in the center of my stamp, and that my stamp is going to cover it from edge to edge. Okay? Easy, simple trick. Now, the next part of this process is you need your sticky embossing ink. Mine just happens to be Versamark, but you use what you have at home. Okay. You have to be pretty darn generous with this. And I tend to stamp twice when I do a Versamark project. Doesn't matter if it's a sentiment, a background stamp, whatever. I always do this twice. And this is the beauty of having a stamping tool. Okay? Because it allows you to put that stamp back in exactly the same place. Okay, hang on. She's stuck. Okay. And again, like I said, whenever I'm doing some kind of embossing or I'm using my Versamark, I tend to do it twice. I find I get a more thorough, sticky image. Okay. So again, good pressure, because you want to make good contact with that surface, okay? So again, love my Misty tool. And this is why I have the Misty regular size and my mini. Okay, so we're going to take this off now. Okay, we're going to set our Misty to the side. We're going to bring in just our embossing powder catch paper. Okay. And this is a small bottle of embossing powder, but it goes a long, long way. I've had sizes of embossing powder like this for years, and they're still a going. Yep. So just want to make sure that you capture your surface area. So if you're new to embossing powders, on last week's Technique Tuesday, I'm just tapping the back just to get off any excess. Tapping it towards my surface because that's where I want to put it. So last week's Technique Tuesday, we talked about embossing powder. So if you're new to the embossing powder game, this magical technique is just part of using your embossing powders. Okay. So you can always go back to the previous video on more information on how to use embossing powders. Hi, Anita. Okay. So now, if I can pick up my tool here, we are going to heat up our clear, and clear embossing powder is the secret, because once this is heated, it becomes clear, obviously, otherwise they would call it clear. So you have to have a clear embossing powder for this. Mine is a Wow Superfine Clear Embossing, and this works beautiful for details. Because those particles are extra small, you're going to capture a lot more detail of whatever stamp or stencil you're using. Okay, so the magic of the embossing powder is it becomes shiny. Okay, so the powder was slightly opaque. And now that we've heated it, it's become glossy, and that's how you can tell it worked. Okay? So now this is the magic of the technique. So I'm going to bring back just our base here. Okay. It's stuck down. The magic of this technique is to use a black or a dark ink. Doesn't have to be black. You could do a navy blue, but it has to be somewhat rich in color. Because what we're going to do now is we're going to reveal the pattern even more by going over the surface with a darker ink. So watch as the magic happens. This is just a VersaFine. You can use whatever ink you want, okay? So this is the magic of the technique. As you add dark or black or navy or whatever you want to put, that clear embossing powder basically is a resist. Ink will, for the most part, not stick to that embossing because it's shiny and slick, right? It's basically you've put plastic layer over top. So this is where the magic happens. And of course, you can go in multiple times and add black to this. You can deepen and darken it. Okay, so we have one more thing to do to our background after this is done. So see, this is our previous background. Our embossing powder is melted over top of this. Okay, but see how when you put the dark in between all of the places that are embossed, you start to see your pattern. Okay, and this is the magic of this technique. And it's really not hard to do. You just have to have inks a sticky ink that will deal with your embossing powder, and a heat gun. So you use whatever you have at home. But you need a clear embossing powder for this. You can't use white because white would be opaque and you would never see your beautifully inked pattern. Okay, that's the beauty of this process. You make your own gorgeous blended background. And like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, then you can either take a microfiber cloth or you can take just a piece of paper towel. Either will work. And what you're going to do is you're going to buff. Okay? And what you do, if you can see this already, is you buff this corner and not any of the rest. So it takes any residue of ink that is on the surface of that plasticized part and gets rid of it. So your inking background comes alive. It pops. Okay? And you don't need to wet this. A dry will do. Okay? If you wet this cloth, what you'll do is you might, in fact, add a texture or pull some of that black ink off, and you don't want to do that. Okay? So here it is. Here's the magic of that process. So remember our 3 purple inks. Okay, that's what we made our background out of. And then we took our Versamark ink. Mine says Dazzle, but it's actually just pure Versamark. And used our background stamp to emboss our background stamp on. And then we put some form of dark ink, whether it be navy or like you could even do a dark purple. And that's what makes it pop. So you get to have fun making that inky background, and then you get to reveal that funky pattern underneath. So yeah, lots of fun. Lots of fun. So yeah, that is the basis of our Joseph coat technique. And again, you can also use stencils. The same concept of build your background, put your sticky ink, add your clear embossing powder, heat that up, and then add your dark ink. So yeah, and again, that makes your pattern pop. And on this one, we could have used navy blue, would have looked absolutely gorgeous. I think this would be really fun to do with like a cloud background stamp or stars. You could kind of make a kind of like a reverse galaxy would be kind of fun. So yeah, the next time that you want to try something new, try the Joseph's coat technique. And to Anita and Carol, because you're here live with me today, I have some Valentine cards that haven't been sent out yet. So if the two of you would like to send me your mailing addresses, I would be more than happy to send you both out a Valentine's card for me. And I'll get those out today. If you can private message me under my actual name, not under the Scrap and Stamp, I will put a comment down below when we're done here, and then you can find me a lot easier. If you send me your mailing address, I'll send the two of you a card. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you learned something new. And one last thing too is that we have a new kit in the store called Sending Love, and it features this adorable love letter stamp set from Photoplay. And we have a Instagram hop going on right now where you can go over to the Scrap and Stamp blog. That's where you start first. I'll put a link also in the comment section too. I believe until, I want to say Friday, but don't quote me on that, where you can win a $50 gift certificate to the store. So make sure that you go and check out Instagram and everybody's blogs on that hop, and make sure you comment, and you have a chance to win $50 gift certificate. And I will hopefully see you guys soon. I'll see you on Sunday, where we're going to do some fun inking techniques. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. And thanks, Carol and Anita, for joining me. And I look forward to getting your addresses in my inbox. And I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.